When you look into the word leadership, you often find, well, especially in academia, there are hundreds of definitions of what leadership is all about. I think over the last 18 months, our participants have discovered for themselves what that means. And we will find out tonight as we hear their exciting journeys and what leadership is. We know that in the news, there is a lot of negative publicity and stories about Pacific people being at the lower socioeconomic end of the spectrum, health problems. But we also know that there is a lot of potential. And 4 years ago, the Best Pacific Institute saw what that potential was all about. And they had an idea, and they took it, and they ran with it. And here we are today with the Best Leadership Academy. It is my pleasure now to introduce the Director of Best Pacific Institute of Education. Rachel Skudder has worked in Pacific education and development for over 18 years. It is New Zealand's largest Pacific-focused tertiary education institute with a Pasifika student body of over 2,500 students over 5 campuses in Auckland. She is a lawyer, she is a teacher, but more than that, for as long as I've known, Rachel is committed to the social, cultural and economic well-being of Pacific peoples. And thankfully for her vision and her mother, for her vision, Anita Finnegan, we are here tonight. Please put your hands together for Rachel Skudder.
Mālo lelei, talofa lava, kia orana, whakalofalahi atu, bulavanaka, kia ora, koutou katoa, and a very warm welcome to you all. I'd like to particularly acknowledge tonight our leaders, who we are celebrating, your business leaders, your employers, and the sponsor companies that are represented here this evening. We couldn't do this without you. Also, I'd like to acknowledge the mentors that have walked alongside our leaders and are continuing to develop that crucial relationship, taking our leaders forward in their vision and in their careers. And our leadership mentors come under the umbrella of our Leadership Foundation. And so Meg Putasi, the chair of our foundation, is here this evening, welcome. And Sandra Kailahi also representing the board for the Leadership Foundation. Can I also acknowledge the Reverend Elisana McCarthy, who has been Best's chaplain for probably nearly as long as I've been with Best for 18 years. No wonder I feel so tired. And I also want to acknowledge the founder of the Leadership Academy and the Charitable Foundation, which is Anita Finnegan, yes, my mother, the Greek side of the family. My Tongan side is represented here. Dr. Nicholas, my brother, is my partner tonight. Thank you, Nicholas. And I was privileged to be part of the establishment team of the Leadership Academy and Foundation, and we wanted to put a stake in the ground and say it's more than just gender diversity that we want our business sector to concentrate on. And so the leaders that we are celebrating tonight, your evidence of the unique workplace advantage that cultural diversity brings. Tonight I want to acknowledge not just the founder, Anita Finnegan, but our inaugural CEO, Beatrice Faumina, who has herself put leadership in action and stepped into a big new role at ASB. In her place, those shoes are not to be filled, per se. Peter Cords, our acting CEO, is doing a great job for us at this time. Malia, where are you? You have provided the continuity and the wings behind our leadership program, thank you. And I also want to say tonight that the two mega trends, if you like, I was on the plane to Wellington and I glanced, as you do, to the left and the right, very important people doing very important presentations on their way down to the capital city, and I caught one man preparing his PowerPoint and I caught the word mega trend, and I'm like, wow, that's really important in the energy sector. So I was trying not to be too rude and read over his shoulder, but The two mega trends that I'd like to bring to our attention tonight, because it's relevant to our leaders who we are celebrating, because you're smack bang in the middle of the right time. Your leaders for the right time. Your leaders in your own families, communities, and there's probably a raft of areas that you lead outside of work. So we're thrilled that you're in the positions you are, in your families, in your communities, in your businesses, because the two mega trends that concern us, particularly New Zealand, are the terrific disruption that technology is bringing. So there's the first one, we all know about the technological disruptions happening, and then also obviously demography. That's a word, it's a word, demography, because Auckland has just been declared a super diverse city, and in the OECD, in fact, we are 5th in the entire OECD. So super diversity actually does have an academic definition. It's being used globally. It's incredible because the definition is a city or town that has about 100 ethnicities, and we're about 40% not born in that city or town. Auckland has over 200 ethnicities and about 50% not born here in New Zealand. That presents an incredible picture of opportunity and also challenge. For Pasifika, we are the fastest growing minority population here in Auckland, fast to become a majority along with our other minorities. Pasifika are the most youthful with a median age of 22. It's my son's age. And so I'm really excited at the opportunity that cultural diversity is bringing. And it's to be different is now applauded, because not just executive teams and boards want different thinking. We are different just by virtue of our ancestry, and it is to be celebrated in a really inclusive way. The plurality that is happening here in Auckland is going to bring socioeconomic challenges. And so the Leadership Academy is about saying we want a new kind of role model in our Pacific communities, and they're the business leaders. We want it to be and. We still want all the success that is happening in the creative industries, in the music industry, and all of the sports areas that we already excel. So it's the business sector that we want to raise up business leaders as role models in our Pacific communities. So tonight I applaud you and your contribution to making these leaders where they are today. I'm calling it a diversity dividend, and that's what we need to be able to recognise and bring into being in our own companies, in our growing customer and market bases. And then the other thing I wanted to end on is, if you had to think about your own personal balance sheet, I'm talking to our leaders tonight, those ones that we're celebrating, 12 months ago, in terms of your assets now, what are you now able to do, able to walk in, that you probably weren't doing 12 months ago? Your personal balance sheet has become, increased, I'm sure, hugely in value. And so I encourage you to keep being who you are, because you are going to be the difference that we need in our workplaces, in our places of decision and influence. So I applaud you tonight. Please join me in congratulating our leaders.